but to embrace that. And I've learned a lot about laughter and
Yes.
how that changes the world.
Yes.
Like sometimes, we've got to go over the top being funny about our own changes. Like, okay, here I am, I guess I was crying 5 minutes ago, but here, see, I'm changing. Like,
Exactly
and
right.
everybody kind of can laugh about it, but they're not laughing at me, they're laughing with me. And
Correct.
to get the world laughing with you is where the change
And to be
is.
laughing at yourself.
It's
And
laughing at yourself and people laughing with you,
right.
and to be able to see your own evolution as
Right.
fun and funny.
And
There's
not
no
so
way to
darned
change.
important. And not
Right.
so darned important. Right. You
And
know,
at this, and on the flip side of it, the thing about it is that it to lighten up while becoming heavier and more serious. It's the duality. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond, the podcast where we like to talk about happiness, and we hope everybody's happy out there. How we like to talk about it is that sometimes happiness can be the booby prize, and know that seems really unusual, but it is. It's knowing exactly how to get back to happiness. That is what this podcast is about. We all hope everybody is happy from morning till night for their entire lives, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, right? Sometimes we were happy for a while, and I just had a really happy 7 months. A really happy 7 months. And by the way, this is my brother Mark Zagarelli.
hey, Tammy, how are you today? Nice to see you.
I'm great. I'm great. I'm great because I'm
I'm very
figuring things
glad to
out, and
hear
that's what
that.
we're supposed to be figuring things out here, and helping other people to figure things out. And sometimes we have to sort of take our own medicine. I had really really happy 7 or 8 months, and I was flying high because my journey has been a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. And 7 months of happiness for me without too much upset or drama is always a good thing. And then without knowing it, because that's how our inner critic works, right? We're talking about inner critic here a lot and inner guidance a lot, and we'll get more into that. Somehow, something in from my inner critic pulled focus away from my happiness, which seems so natural. When you're feeling great, I don't know, has this happened to you, Mark? When you're
That is
feeling
absolutely
great,
yes.
like you can't imagine ever not feeling great.
That's right. Just as the reverse is usually true. When you're feeling rotten, you can't imagine feeling anything but rotten, right? So it's really important to like when you're over here and it's happiness to try to stay
Oh yeah.
there. If you can maintain it, it's easier to maintain by balance on a bicycle than it is to fall off on your butt and then get back on it. Like can be,
Exactly.
right?
And that's what this is about. It's the idea that these two places to be, whether you call, happiness and unhappiness, joy and misery, a lot of times we get really caught up in the words, and sometimes that's important. So we're just using the word happiness for a general state of well-being where one feels safe in the world and in this universe. And when we're, again, like you said, when you're riding the bike and you're on either side of the tracks, like on either side of the tracks of happiness to unhappiness, it feels like it's never going to end. And in the greater universe, it never does end. But we
Right.
live on this planet. And that's the duality that we always talk about here: inner critic, inner guidance. So you're riding high and you think to yourself, I'm always going to feel this way. And then something happens. And it generally can be something that happens outside yourself. It's not always something that happens inside yourself. But I mean, somebody loses a job, your car breaks down, you go, you someone, God forbid, dies in your life. You have a real tragedy in your life. And all of a sudden, the inner critic starts saying, you've never felt happiness. You just thought you were feeling happiness. That really never happened. And it is a convincing
Yeah.
speaker.
And I think I might have
And
mentioned,
it's
if I haven't mentioned on one podcast or the other, that it is like unlike memories, which can be retained. Like, if you think back to, a teacher that you really liked, you'll probably remember that person's name and what they looked like for the rest of your life, and maybe many of
true.
the things they did. Memories are easy to retain, but feeling states are very hard to retain and that's a double-edged sword
I
because
like that.
when you're feeling good, like you said, you're like your brain just absorbs you in a cloud of awesomeness. And then when you're feeling terrible, it's like and you could even hear yourself saying like, oh, well, I've never really felt good. I never,
Yes.
it's all just an act. It's all just a show. I just go
Those
out and I'm
polarizing
great.
words, never,
Yeah, always never.
always
Right.
catastrophizing words, I call them.
Absolutely. Right. Right. Very, very bad. Very like little poison little pills we take all day long and wonder why we're not feeling well.
Right. And so when we talk about how to get back to happiness, is some of it is noticing who we're listening to in our head. And there's a lot of voices in our head, and we know that. We're narrowing it down to inner critic, inner guidance, which is of course not all that's going on. And there's a lot more going on in there. But when you hear you'll never or you've always, that's a very different thing than the soothing voice of the inner guidance that says, you got this, you can, you're not alone. We're in this together, right? Those kinds of.
You've done this before. You faced harder challenges than this and you got through it. You have these skills. You have more than your share of skills. Like when you hear that, but then that's like that is the you could hear the encouraging words, from a good friend, from a good family member, from someone who really knows you, a good teacher, a good mentor. You
And
can
the step beyond that, the step beyond the podcast beyond, um, the step beyond that is when you're hearing that the distinction is so hard when you're polarized to one side or the other. So over many different ways of saying this, when you're hearing inside of yourself, you'll never, or you've always been unhappy. You've never been good enough. Your mother knew it, your father knew it, your this knew it, your teacher knew it. When you hear that, and then we start moving and listening to it, and we start talking with it and to it and inside of ourselves, the question to ask yourself is this really making me feel better? Because the inner critic will tell you, and has told me this is what happened after I fell off the happiness wagon um a few weeks ago, about a couple 3 weeks ago, as they say, um, was if you don't express this pain to where someone else can understand you, you'll never feel happy again. And then I started calling up all my friends and you, of course, and vomiting all over them emotionally. And the question for my inner guidance somehow slipped in and said, is this making you feel better?
thank heavens for the good question.
Right. And it happened in the mid cry on the phone with someone I care about. "Ah, you don't understand." Like, "Ah." Whenever I hear myself say, you don't understand, I know I'm most likely saying
Iceberg dead
something from the
ahead,
inner
right?
critic. Iceberg dead ahead. And I thought to myself, I'll never feel better unless I can express this to you. And then I thought, where is that true? Is it expressing this like just regurgitation of unhappiness to someone that's a friend, not a therapist, not someone who was there for the work? Mid cry, I was like, I'll never feel happy unless I can explain this. And I was like, some little part of me, which was willing to stop fighting for my limitations, said, is this making you feel happy? Explaining and regurgitating to this friend on the phone who was, like, was like the cat and Pepe Le Pew trying to get off the phone with me.
Right.
Was it making me feel better for real? And was it making her feel better?
You knew it wasn't making her feel better.
Absolutely. I was like Pepe Le Pew trying to keep her on the phone with me.
Right.
And then I thought, but is it really making me happy? And the answer was no, not even a little bit. And mid cry, I thought, well, what would make me feel happy? And I thought, silence for a moment might try that for 2 minutes, a minute. I just talk about something that's not about me.
That's amazing. I've never, that's interesting because silence is not your brand. And I've never
No.
heard you. And yet I know that you're open to it. I know that that's not like, it's not like you're, Eckhart Tolle is like poster boy for silence in our era. And I know that he's not one of your favorites, but I also know he's not anathema to you. But to hear you say that, like, wow, silence, bring down silence, let's have that and have that be healing. That's a new.
Yeah, I do like Eckhart Tolle, and in in bits and pieces, what I say is that I add a little something which was helpful. For the moment, I was like, get quiet, which is very much Eckhart Tolle's brand. And the next thing I thought was distract from the self-absorption that I was soaking in, like Madge. If you
You're
we're gonna
soaking
bring it back a
right
lot.
now. Yes, yes.
Right. Your hands are soaking in it. You're soaking in this, you know, emotional vomit, really. I was soaking in it, and I thought silence for a second. But for me, I have had to get back on the horse of happiness is find the horse. Like for
Mhm.
me, what I think Eckhart Tolle is saying is sit in the field and
Mhm.
breathe. And for me, it's like, okay, I'm off the horse. Where's the horse? Where's the happiness? And so we started talking about, we displaced the unhappiness with, let's talk about happy things generically. Like, oh, obviously I love paint. If people who know me know I love painting. So I mean, I can literally talk about a shade of blue. You know me of the color blue. I love
Yeah.
the color blue. And it's like, oh, remember, we just started talking randomly about things that have to do with, like, that I can depend on for happiness. The color blue never makes me unhappy. Let's hope it never changes. Looking at the ocean, seeing you sent me a picture from China of a blue bridge.
That's right. It's a replica of London Bridge. It's a footbridge. It's not a big bridge, but it's big enough for
Oh,
20 people to walk across at the same time. So it's not tiny. And it's lovely.
no, the color of it is, I must have sent that picture to 20 people because I said, look at this amazing blue bridge. So, talking about this beautiful blue bridge, I stopped, I sent the picture to the person. Displacing for me is finding the horse again. If I fall off the horse while I'm riding in the field of happiness, I think maybe certain people's brand would be to sit in the field and appreciate the field. And for me is, where's the horse?
Mhm.
The horse is, it's generating things around beauty, around happiness, around love. Like, what am I grateful for? And then my very close person said to me, there's another saying that always works for me when I am going, when I've lost the horse. There's a new saying, when I've
Yeah.
lost the
Plus
horse.
the horse, right?
When things go off track, what's the worst that can happen here?
That's a good thought. Because
If you
usually
know,
it's not so
and
bad. Like I lost my keys. What's the worst that could happen? I'll have to get a new
what's the
set
worst that
of
can
keys. What does that cost? I don't know, $150, $200. Like, no, do I want to spend it on? I don't want to spend $250 on keys. But if I do, it's probably cheaper than it's probably less trouble than having a plastic freak out for 5 hours, calling five friends and crying, and then spending $250 for the key.
right.
I mean, like,
And
it's
and the
not as if you can displace, like, if I'm just miserable enough and horrible enough, and if I express my awfulness to enough people, then I'm going to get off and not have to buy the keys, right? It's like, it doesn't work that way.
No, and we go back to a thing we talked about in an earlier podcast. We, the lie of the inner critic, the great lie of the inner critic is that you can get the ugliness out of you, the pain, the ugliness of the pain, out of you. But what we don't realize is that when we're regurgitating pain, I'm not talking about, there are moments in life. I don't know if you've ever sat in a therapist chair where you express something that you really haven't expressed before, and it feels amazing. They heard you, they listened. That was a feeling where you're like, it was a moment of acknowledgement. That's not what I'm talking about.
I certainly have. And I was going to say, those are like, those moments are golden when they come to you, right? Like you spent, like if you have a good therapist, maybe said something to like five people and they didn't get it, or you never really understood it yourself. And then suddenly,
True.
through the understanding and insight of another person, you put something together in a way you've never done it before, and it just makes so much sense and it clicks, the brain and the heart and the
Well, that creates the alignment. Your
right,
thoughts and your feelings line up. Where
right.
what we're talking about is the inner critic has a way of saying you have this right to speak your mind and vomit your emotions onto people when they're not trained, they're not asking, they're not in the mood for it, they've got things going on, and you're demanding the way a little kid would demand chocolate before dinner.
Mhm.
And you're saying, you need to listen to me, you have to listen to me, and it's the answer is no, they don't.
That's right. They don't. Other people don't. And I know that then the next thing is like, this person doesn't really care about you. And if they
There you
really
go.
knew, they would, and blah, blah, blah. And, you could break up a friendship over, or you can
And you will break up
enjoy
a
a
friendship.
person, or you will
You
break
will break up a friendship
eventually.
because but eventually we realize that what the inner critic is trying to say is the opposite of the truth. And we've gone over this before and it's worth going over again. It if I give you all my love, did I divide my love? Did I get my love out of me? No, I
Right.
doubled
Now
it.
you have
You
twice.
have all my love
Right.
and I have all my love. If I give you all my knowledge, you now have all my knowledge and I have all my knowledge. If I give you all my pain,
Oh, that's
now
good.
you have all my pain and I have all my pain.
Thank
We
you.
do not, we double it. We double down and we double it. That's when people say, like, I'm going to go out there and fight the war on dot, dot, dot. What you do is you create more of what you are fighting against. The old sayings, what you resist persists. So, and also what you extend stays within you and extends outward. Love, you don't lose a minute of your love when you give all your love to your love,
That's
to the
absolutely.
love of your life.
That's right.
To
That's right.
your children can be the loves of your life. Your family can be the loves of
Or
your life.
when you
When you
hold
give
the
them all your love.
when you hold the door open for a stranger who and like, when you hold the door at the elevator, when you smile at someone, give someone a compliment, like a genuine compliment. Oh God,
Genuine.
you look great today. You look terrific. Whatever. Just like when it wells up from like spontaneously from the heart, you pretty much can't go wrong.
Right. And the thing is that we notice, well, the point of this podcast again is when we veer off, when you're veering into love, run with that. Ride that horse right, through the field and through the meadow and enjoy the sun and the blue sky and the green grass and the slight drizzle of rain that's coming down and making you feel great. I'm saying we want you to be on that horse most of your life, riding that horse. But if you somehow wind up on the ground and either the horse has run away or it's sort of like looking at you like, I don't know, I don't know what you got here. Stay, we think, let me get it out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get it out of me. And when we get it out of us without in a safe setting where someone is trained and willing to do this, we may alleviate it and heal it. But when we just feel the sort of inevitable right, that's not the right word, inevitable. What's the word? The
The inalienable right.
inalienable. See, we would
Right.
like to keep it,
It's like,
we
wait,
like to
it's
keep our
like,
grammar
the
right.
inalienable rights were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not the maintenance of misery, right? That's what
There
Jefferson
you
wrote,
go.
right?
Right. And
It's not
the
in the
thing about
Declaration of
it,
Independence
there you go.
to feel rotten.
Right. And so we think if I call enough people and I'm going to give everybody here a way that they can say, well, I don't do that, except for when's the last time that you were gossiping? I'm not meaning you, Mark. You're not really a
No,
gossip.
go,
I
you
don't.
call me out because I'm getting better. I am getting better. And am I there yet? Hell no. I wish I was. I wish I could virtuously say to you, like, why no, heavens no, I would never, my lips would never touch such terrible things as gossip. No, 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 no. You know,
Well, you don't show up
I
that way.
don't
Let's put it
even,
that way.
well, I thank you. But I know myself and I know that I partake of that. And even at the time, a lot of times it's sort of like, well, this isn't really gossip. It's like with the minute the minute you're telling your
Yes, the minute you hear yourself say that, right?
that's like, well, this isn't really a secret. I mean, I was never explicitly sworn to say it's like you, like go ahead, talk yourself out of it.
And the thing is that when you if you can ask yourself the question, this is why we're doing this, like we're preparing for those moments. I have never spent any time gossiping where afterwards I said, I feel really good about that. It just doesn't make your inner critic will say, you know, you can dabble in a little bit of this and it's going to be fine. But it's never fine. I have never once felt better after gossiping.
No, it isn't. It's like,
Never.
what is like, it's like, do you, do you ever eat really bad tasting food that's not good for you? It's crazy because I do that. Like, like you're just somewhere and like I'm not even that hungry, but like
Oh,
bad
and you
bar
think the
food, like
waste of calories,
but,
the
like
waste of
waste,
calories.
the waste of calories, the way like of every and then like afterwards your stomach is like, now you're gonna pay, right? Here, hey Bucko, you think, like you take me for granted. Don't you ever do that again? And right, it's like, what did I do and why did I do it? Just like because going along, like that same as it ever was, Once in a Lifetime by the Talking Heads, right? And it's
Oh, yes. I love that song.
letting the days hold down, like letting the days go by, let the water hold you down. That's what
Yes.
sort of just like going with the flow, but in a way that is toxic. Just letting the water hold you down, let it just flow, along in a direction that you are not meant to go in, and just finding yourself
And
going.
that's the point is that there are two sides of this equation. I talk about as if flipping the penny, there's two sides to this reality is about duality. It's like, and when we're in happiness or unhappiness, the one thing that the inner critic always says is there's no choice. You have no choice.
Right.
And in
That's
that
one. You
moment,
have no
you have
choice.
no
And
choice.
the other one is, well, this isn't really so bad, right? For all you Catholics out there,
Ooh,
that's the venial sin. Like, nobody ever went to hell for doing this. It's like, not for me to say.
yeah. Is the elevator going down? I don't know. Um, you don't know. And the thing about it is, how, what is the deciding factor in how we pull ourselves from these negative places? And I say, am I feeling good mid gossip about someone who I truly love, truly care about? How am I justifying that? I'm justifying it by saying it's not so bad.
Exactly it. It's not right. It's like, and the minute you hear yourself say that, that should, I'm not saying it will be the signal, but it should be. I'll tell you one thing that I'm getting better at. And again, back to Brene Brown. Brene Brown is just good all day
I
long.
love her.
You know,
Love her.
I think she like shows up in like every other podcast and always something different. But I can't remember. There's an acronym she uses, and I can't remember what it's 6 letters or something. But the one letter that I remember is V for vault. And what
Mm.
it's like she's talking about different aspects of showing up being really integritous. Um, but the V for vault part is when somebody tells you something in confidence, vault. It's like
Oh,
you're
I love that.
in a vault and you switch to the comment. It's like, and ever since then, I've gotten better because it's like, it's not like somebody told me a secret, so I'm only going to tell one person. No, vault. It's a vault
Love it.
until the
Right.
day it goes with you to the grave. I mean, and that's the, and once you see that, it's like, okay, I can keep this secret. I can really do that.
And the thing is, sometimes we have a right when someone says, "Can you keep the secret from me?" And sometimes the answer is, "I'm not strong enough right now to hear a secret."
Hmm.
Like I wish I could, like I can't promise you. Like I've kind of made a not an explanation to or a pact with the people that I love. I in my world, I don't tell anything to people that they can't tell to their partner.
Fair enough. I
And
understand.
it's like, but I make it it's a verbal external contract saying that my like if you are married or in love or in a relationship or any version of that where someone is your person, your day-to-day person, if I'm speaking to you, I in my mind I'm speaking to it is not fair to dump a secret on someone that they can't
I would
tell
do that,
the
but that would
person
be
they love.
from my side, from as the teller of this. I guess the other side of
Exactly.
it is as
But
the
the other side
teller.
of the that's not for them.
Right.
I'm
That's
not
for
saying that
yourself.
I for myself, like so I when someone is going to tell me a secret, I say to them, is this just for me?
Mhm.
Like I say to sort of everybody that I know, this is how if I'm telling you a secret, I assume you're going to tell it to your partner, and I'm fine with that. Unless under otherwise understood from me,
And
from the
I've heard
other
you say
person.
that. I've heard you say that to me. That it's like, or and I assume you could say that to your other friends who are like,
I do.
yeah,
That's my that works for me. But for I believe when other people are telling us secrets, many times they mean that to be wholly only for us. And we have a right to say, I don't know if I'm strong enough right now to hear something that I can't share with anybody. And that gives them a choice to say, it also gives them, I think it's a fair thing to say to them, do you really want to share this? Are you sure?
right. I guess when I think about the secrets that people, I mean, we're talking, I'm not talking about government secrets. I'm not talking about,
No, I know.
illegal. I'm not, there's no intrigue here. It's like like, I'll give you an example. This is like something that, like, when we were little, I don't know if you remember this, but we had an aunt who would take us out, and you know who we're talking about. See, I'm even leaving out the name, even though this person has been gone many, many years. But
Sure.
when we were now she would I remember her telling us that um she had to get dental work done, and because of that she put herself in debt, and she considered that to be a shameful thing to do, to have to go into debt in order to have her teeth fixed, which, you know these days you could say, like,
These days.
these days, like the world in which, people don't go into debt. Isn't that a lovely, like, time in the past?
Sure.
But those were her values. And I remember her saying that. And at the time, she would say it to us, and I would think to myself, because we were so little, like, does that really matter? But then I got a little bit older, and she said it a few more times, and I began to hear it as, she's really serious about this. She's only telling us, you and me. You might have been so little that it kind of went over.
Yeah, I don't
Right, you
remember
don't
that.
remember, but like, she's only telling me and Tammy. She's telling us in real confidence. She really does feel compromised, and she really doesn't want our other aunts and uncles, her contemporaries, her brothers and sisters, or
That's probably why she was telling 5 and 6 year olds.
5 and 6 year old. But she picked the right two, because I mean, I remember at the time I was like, okay, but then it landed with me. I'm like, she's really serious about this. This is a real confidence that she's giving us, and she's entrusting to us. And I still haven't said her name. I mean, I think that from beyond the grave at this point, 20 years, she
I'm
probably.
sure she paid it off as well.
Oh, it's quite well paid. I think, in fact, I remember when she said, like, I have now paid off the debt. So I feel really, really good about that. But it took her 2 years, and 2 years in the life of a child is a long time. 2 years in anybody's life is long enough to be in debt, like longer than you want to be in debt. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what she
Yeah.
tended
And at the end of the day, she picked the right she picked the right people. But I'm saying it's like in some ways we don't to take things more sacredly is what I'm saying. Is like to
That's a
say
good
to
way of
someone,
putting it. That's a very
you
good
know,
way.
just to take it more like if someone's going to tell me a secret, I'm like, you know, I mean, I'm a life coach. I hear secrets all the time, and just by the binding of sort of like being a life coach, you're not sharing these things with people. Um, and sometimes you ask a client, "This is the story that can I tell?" You know, if I leave your name out, can I tell? And they're like, if I have had people say to me, if this will help someone else, you tell it, you go for it. Just keep my name out of it. And even if people piece it together, like they're so, in some ways, proud of their progress or wanting to help people, helping people is there's this just feels so good.
Yeah.
So just the idea that we don't always take things as seriously as we can. And to get back to the original idea is that how do we get back when we've had a really good run of happiness? Or, and it's ironic because 7 months of a run of happiness now seems like a blink of an eye. And the 3.5 weeks I spent sort of really unraveling did not, that seemed like forever. Like will I ever get out of this? Like the exaggeration of the inner critic, the exaggeration, like this has been going on forever. And I thought, no, I've got to, I keep track of my ups and downs because I think there's some value in that to
There's
be able to look at the data.
down on paper, yeah, it is because again, your brain will tell you, well, you've always been unhappy. Like you've just put on a brave face all these years. Nobody really knows you, and you can't really trust anybody. And they're all out having a party, and here you are sitting alone in the dark, and the gloom, and you you listen to that stuff. It's good all day. It'll keep on going, and you need to like have some way of saying, now, wait a minute. Okay. Um, 2 weeks ago, there was that awesome get together with my friends.
Yes.
We had a blast. We laughed and laughed, and I came home and I just felt so good about life. And then I watched a movie and I went to sleep. The movie was great too. Like,
Yes.
what day was that? It's in my calendar. It seems like it was 10 years ago. Oh, it was Thursday. Wow. Oh, it wasn't even 2 weeks ago. It was Thursday. 5 days
If
ago
that's
was
the
the
funny,
occasion.
those are the things when
Right.
you look back and you say, I've been feeling this way for so long. And you look back and you kind of keep a little record like I do, because I'm very careful about my emotional state or dysregulation is what I'm working on with and
Yeah.
on. And it's like, that was 4 days ago. I felt great. How can it feel like that was 4 months ago? You know, and the, when you're feeling great, time flies. Like you're
Yes.
feeling great. It's like, oh, it's like,
Yeah.
wow, it's just like I can't remember when I felt bad before. And it's like you don't have it has a different energy to it because there we do tap into something eternal when we're
That's a
feeling
very
good.
good way of putting it. You're right, it is. So we're not dragging along on the ground. It's like, you get on a plane and you fly over the cloud, like after the initial ascent, take off the ascent, and then, all of a sudden you're just flying 600 miles an hour effortlessly, and not even noticing
Yeah.
it. And that's like, it's really easy to, like, I mean, like watch a movie and, like you're 1,000 miles later, the movie ends, like, but you don't even notice it.
Right. And that's why it is important, I think, to notice things is that when we say, we're feeling good and it's like just a little check mark, like, oh yeah, good day, like, good day, good day. And then it was sort of you look back and for when you kind of got off that track and you say it has to be months now and literally 4 days have gone by and you think, what is the power of this negative force? And I don't like the idea of dissecting the inner critic
Mhm.
because we just give it more attention. But we have to say that and I'll tell you the thing, it's very easy to think about it when you think about it in terms of a toothache.
So how do you mean that? I think I like your analogy.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you're feeling great. It's summer vacation for, it must be kids. We have summer vacation and the summer would always just it would feel like it would go so fast. And yet it's 10 weeks. But and it feels just rolling. The when you get tap into the beauty of the eternal, right? We had some great summers when we were kids. We spent a lot of time on the Jersey Shore with loving, wonderful people. Now, ch- think about, have you ever had a toothache
Oh
for a
Lord.
day?
I had a toothache in Italy that lasted me for like from, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning till 10 a.m. when I found a dentist and stumbled into his office and begged him to do something, and he did. And
When you're in pain, it's
ag-
so much more
time,
noticeable.
right, time flies by second with, every
Yeah.
second you
It
notice.
time stops. It just stops. It's like there's nothing else. That's why people talk about health being so important, because when you're feeling healthy, time is flying and you're accomplishing things and you're checking things off the list and you're having fun.
Yeah,
But
time is
when
flying and
something
time
isn't
is totally standing still in a delightful way where it's like this one timeless moment after the next, right? Without even
beautiful, right?
right.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is that reason that the inner critic appears to have so much power is because, if you're wearing as a woman, I don't know if this happens as much for a man, if you put on the wrong pair of high heels and go out for the dinner, you know, you're walking around a conference somewhere, it's like you had wish you had worn flats and not cared about, that has happened to me where it's like all you can think about is your big toe.
Right.
And it's or even, for a man, I mean, like let's face it, if you ever had the pair of shoes scratched in the back of your ankle
Absolutely.
and cutting
But
into you, it's like, so it's like, it's because it's so much, it the painful things pull our attention so quickly. So physical pain is like, that's a whole another whole world. But emotional pain, when it says you have no control over this, well, if you're out to dinner and you have a pair of high heels on, you don't really have that much control. Kick them off under the table. But with emotional pain, it's a real mind trick with you.
it
You
is.
have no choice. And that's why when I was having this upsetting conversation with someone who cares about me very much, I thought, what would it be like to stop mid sentence and say, this is a lie? Let's try something different. I'm going to change directions.
That's amazing that you had the
Because
insight in the moment and were able to act on it.
the thing that I think also gets people is, I'm going to look crazy if I change directions immediately. You're crying, you're upset, you're whatever, but you've been wanting to make a change in any direction, like, and all of a sudden you decide you have the bowl of popcorn in in your hands, or potato chips or whatever. You say, I'm putting this down.
Mhm.
But we think we have to transition lately for other people out of things. People are very happy if we say, I'm going to stop this negative conversation right now.
Absolutely.
They're like, woo.
Right.
And the person I was on the phone was like, really? You're going to do that? I said, I'm just testing a theory,
Right. I don't need to do
testing a
that.
theory. And they were like, I'm down with this.
Who
But we think that we have to smoothly go in and out of things. Not so much.
No, no. I can imagine because from the point of view of like someone calls me and they're in pain. Okay. Um, I I I care, I listen. If I feel moved, I want to say something. I might and like some every once in a while I just feel moved to say something right at the outset, like, I think this is what's going on. Tell me if this like, if we can do this the quick way. Like, um, you know, it sounds to me like, you know, you just got your feelings hurt by that person. If someone said that to me, I would feel exactly the same way. And but it doesn't sound like they're dangerous or something, like, you know what I mean? Like if someone's like,
Yeah.
person said this and now I'm really worried, they're and I'm, like if I can just like give you one little thing that might like boom, wrestle to the ground. But it usually isn't that easy. If someone calls you, it's usually not that. It's like, like the first aspirin the doctor gives you cures cancer. Like you wish, right?
Right. So the idea is that learning how to change directions on our own accord is part of how happiness is recoup happiness. Like the idea that I'm sitting here, I'm noticing that I'm fighting for my limitations. I'm a little kid crying on the floor for candy before dinner. And to just say, call yourself out on it. Here I am. I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
I'm doing it again, and I don't want to be doing this. Can like, can we just talk about something neutral or positive? I've never had anybody say, no, I won't change. Let's talk about your misery some more.
Right.
Like,
Let's
like
continue
it,
in this doomed path. Right.
right. And so the idea of us learning how to change directions, giving ourselves permission to change directions, even if we feel a little dumb that we've been sort of crying about this supposed huge upset. And then we say, how am I, how's this really working out for me in my head? And it's like, I want to change directions. And I don't want to be, I don't, not do I just not want to be seen this way. I don't want to be this way.
Yeah.
And then the other person on the other end of the phone saying, this is so cool. I want to make how can we change the way we interact with people that we say, yeah, look at you. You go, girl, you change. Change right in front of me. That's the kind of thing. It's like when we sort of feel like we get like the hit from the inner critic, it's like, see, no one understands you. And it's like, and sometimes we will get a hit from the inner critic from another person that says, I just don't have the time for this right now. But instead of saying, well, you're bad, bad, bad person, you could say, is this helpful to me?
Yeah. It's
And
interesting.
it's wonderful.
I was thinking about there's like someone I know, not that well, but someone I know has called me a few times and was just like being it felt like I was watching someone being dragged by a car and the car was emotion. So the car was just going and they were just like, boom, and hitting every bump on the road, like on the boom, boom, like well, then my mother did this, and then my father said that, and then my aunt was like this, and then the boss said that. And it was like, and it's like watch or like once someone said something like watching someone fall out of a tree and hit every branch on the way down. Okay. It's like,
Terrible.
you know, which you're laughing because
Horrible.
it's horrible.
I'm thinking of it as like a cartoon, it's like,
That's exactly it. It's like if it's Wile E. Coyote, it's fine. If so, but it's like, but I was okay, I know where I was, so it was about 6 months ago, and I was just on the phone with this person, and I don't know, at some point I was just like, I need to tell you this. You don't need to do this. And they're like, what? And I'm just like, you don't need to do this. Like all this, all this stuff about the past and the story and the blah, 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 blah. You don't need to do this. You don't need, and like, it is not helping you. It's not helping me. Listen, it's not helping you. That just, blah. And and they're like, okay, I know what you mean. And I'm like, good. I'm really glad because I thought he was
and they may or may not change. But the thing about it is
even
that
like a
this is the one.
partial, yeah, like a momentary break in the story of like, they and she did this and he did that, and I'm never gonna blah blah, and you can never, and I like every time I try, blah blah, and it's just sort of like stop, you know,
Right. And also,
no,
this is one
yeah,
of the things that people don't realize is when everybody has a best friend that says, you'll never lose me. You'll never lose me. You're going to lose them. Like, I'm telling you, like, the thing about it is that you can't, like, 50% of people are divorced or however, whatever the statistic is
and none of
now.
them stood at the altar
On
saying like, I promise to love you until I bloody well feel like it. Until it's,
until
but
death
while
do it.
it's convenient and I'm enjoying it,
But
and
the
after
thing
that,
is, at a
I'm
certain point in time, I say it's like I call it the like this is how when someone says like like you can tell me anything, you'll never lose me, and you go and then you take that seriously and say I'll never lose them. The thing about it is, eventually, if you continued with unchecked, dysregulated behavior, I don't care. Like there will most likely be somebody that stands by you, but they will not be the people that you wish stood by you. And they will be people that truly are doing the correct thing. They love themselves more than they love you. That's the way it should be.
you know,
Loving yourself first.
it's funny. I was a friend of mine in when as I was passing through Bangkok, I met a friend and he was I think he had bought a book. He's trying to learn English and he bought a book that was way too difficult for him. It was Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, which I know that sounds difficult.
Oh, I love that book, but I'm
It's
saying it's
wonderful.
impossible to read in English.
Well, yeah, that's, I mean, be just, a lot of, it's not amazingly difficult, but for an English learner,
It's
it's not Dr. Seuss,
right.
you want a cat in a hat, right?
Right. It's a fantastic, it's
So
a philosophy book where you really have to understand it. It must be
I
very
have
hard for
never,
someone
I
non-English.
didn't, I mean, okay, I had to look up just to make sure. Okay, I know Marcus Aurelius, he was one of the Roman emperors. I want to say 200 years after the birth of Christ, something like that, which puts him solidly after many of the Roman emperors, like Julius and Augustus and
And
Tiberius.
he was really about stoicism and things like that.
That
That
was
was
it,
his,
exactly. So he was a follower of the I want to say Chrysippus. It was like
I'm not sure, but
the real scholars out there will be like, no, that's you've got it all wrong. But but like he was a follower of
he
the.
was stoic.
And so I read like the first couple of pages in it, and it was just like, he's saying to my father who taught me this, to my mother who taught me this, to to my uncle, he's just starting out by appreciating the people who gave him things that he could take with him. And it
Right.
you heard words like, who taught me perspective and temperance and discipline. And it's sort of like, what quaint old librarian sounding words they are. Temperance.
Yeah.
It's like, what is
It's a
temperance?
very, yeah.
Temperance is a 2,000-year-old word that means regulating.
Yes.
Like that, when you're when you're walking and your ankle goes out from under you, you go like, ouch, and then you move on. You don't go like, why is the universe
Right.
the everything? And like, like temperance, like, discipline, these lovely things. And it's like, but
Was
that's
the book
the
Meditations or did you say it was another
meditation.
book?
That's exactly right. It was
Meditations. Okay.
that's
Yeah,
exactly.
it's a great book.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
lovely. I
I-
never knew it.
yeah. No, there's so much to all this, but one of the things that those kinds of books had was more language around they had a lot of language around self-regulation. I like and I'm so into the word self-regulation because it's the thing that we're missing. Like we forget we the thing that I've been that word brought I think when you bring a word into your life, and now I've got temperance, I love that. You bring a thought system into your life that changes you. And so much of when I talk about the things that are foundational to what I believe Tammyisms and things, the second Tammyism number two is a short walk to anywhere you think you can't be. And I sort of meaning for the better. It's a short walk. It's an awareness and then a right turn or a left turn, whichever way you got to go, and to a positive thing, and it's a short walk to a negative thing. And that is, the idea is that if that's Tammyism number two, somebody said, "Why are you numbering them?" I'm gonna maybe just keep a couple of the first numbers and then just make them Tammyisms because foundationally, Tammyism number one, you can't lose anything that's yours. You can't have anything that's not. Tammyism number two is short walk to anywhere you think you can't be. In the middle of that conversation the other night, where I was hurting myself, I was spilling over some vomiting hurt onto another person by my by my complaint, is that if you have something where language, a short walk to anywhere you think you can't be, Tammy, which means if I'm in the most unhappy emotional place, I can take a short walk
Mhm.
and go to a wormhole in the universe to a better place. What does that short walk look like? That looks like owning where you're at. I am talking and talking and I'm not feeling better. I'm hearing from my inner critic, this is going to make you feel better. And what I'm feeling is this is not making me feel better. Put those two things together. Where's the doorway out of this?
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to face a little bit to get self regulated, a little bit of embarrassment. Like I know I've been complaining for an hour, but I'm gonna make a short. I'm gonna make a left, left turn or right turn into happiness right now. And the other person on the end of the line is like, that sounds strange with the level of crying you're at. And I'm like, yes, and I'm going to do it. Are you on board? They were like, yes. If your friend, right? If you when you said to your friend, you don't have to do this anymore, and if they just said, you're right, let's talk about something else.
And he did.
That's
I
the
like
short
God,
walk.
God love him for that because like, but the thing is, I think that what I did, like so let me talk really just this is because something's occurring to me.
Sure.
Carl Rogers, who we love, Carl Rogers.
Love Carl
I
Rogers.
can't speak for anybody else. I love Carl. I think
Yes.
I love Carl Rogers and I love Mr. Rogers. I think they're the two greatest minds of the 60s and 70s, right? Okay, like that.
Yes.
So, um, Carl Rogers had three pillars of what he said a good therapists should be doing when they are with someone. And by extension, he would say, how a person should be with their husband or wife, how a person should be with their kids, how a person should be when you're having, if you want to extend what the possibility of this relationship in that moment. And he said there's because two of them will go like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. I remember that. Like one of them was unconditional positive regard, which I think sometimes gets a bad rap. It's like the idea of I always think you're a me, but like it's like focus
No, I love it.
on
It's
right.
fundamental. It's fundamental to the way I think about things.
Absolutely. I can't like if I'm having a moment where I'm like, I really don't like this person. I can't I can't be in service to them. I have to like get my own like, like who am I to this person? Who is this person really to me? Who is this person really? Like I
Right.
have to be able to see it. And so
Yeah,
like to have that. So okay, that wasn't one of those. And again, like, very, he's thought of as this very positive guy, which he was,
absolutely.
second one was empathy, which is to hear what they're saying from in here.
I
So
agree.
not just to hear, and he was parodied a lot, the idea of the mirroring back, but like he was never a mechanical mirrorer, nor did he ever
No,
that.
not if
The
you've
idea of
watched him.
this dead therapist who's just like saying the words back, like the words, but not the music, right? He sang the music.
Right.
So when someone's,
I love that.
said something, it's like, God, it sounds like you just felt terrible when your best friend said that to you in that way, and he would say it the way like I know this is like an odd analogy that I make sometimes, but like the way that a tailor would say to you, like, is that a proper fit? Does that quite fit? Because like asking you, because what he would be doing would be saying, like, like your friend said that to you, and I'm hearing from you like that. There's just a lot of pain around that. And that was really disappointing to hear that. And then someone would say it wasn't disappointing, it was infuriating. I'm like, he's like, okay, okay, that's different. I hear that. You were pretty darn pissed off about that, right? Okay.
Right.
And he was directing people because the thing that before I go on to the third one, which is the thing, like what I think is brilliant about this is one of the things he called attention to was like, if someone says something to you and you say like, you must have been like very sad when your father said those words to you, and then the person says, oh, I wasn't sad, I was relieved. Wow. And it's like he'll say to someone, not in a session at that moment, but like when you think about it, what is it that you are like someone saying you must have been sad, and I'm taking that word and then I'm holding it up to what and comparing it to what in here? What am I referring to say like, let's see, this little sadness. No, not sadness, relief, or anger or jealousy or, surprise. Like you get these words and then but what is it in us that is available to us all the time, and yet we don't necessarily avail ourselves of very much?
That's why I love the word why I love the word inner guidance. It's like inner guidance is the thing I think we're holding everything up to. And the funny thing about it is that we much more relate to being our inner critic and to having an inner guidance, and it's reversed. What
Yeah.
it is that we are our inner guidance, and we
Yes.
are stuck with, in a sense, or we're connected to in some way we don't want to be our inner critic. But when you think like when you and also when you're looking for that, what is the word? Just give me the sentence again. The unconditional way of looking at
Oh,
someone is
unconditional positive regard towards a
okay.
person.
Unconditional positive regard. When I think of the way that I approach coaching, and this is, I wish I could take some credit for this, but it was just the way that I sort of landed on this planet this way, is that it's like the idea of being able to see people fully realized. That for me, like when I look at people, and I don't do it always with myself, which is where the imbalance comes in, is that when people are like, I want to be, a great, like for you, a great mathematician someday, and a great writer of books. It's like that is something. It's like I already see you that way. You that like before the somehow like that connection to inner guidance is a way that, or I want to, like someone who's starting on a journey that you can see as a real calling of being an artist, and you're like you see them in the drawing their first picture, and somehow the vision of them in like somehow in a studio with all their art around them and this huge success. That's the like it's like seeing them as far down the line as you could possibly see them in their joy, in their fully realized self. I
Right.
wish I could take some, like I wish I could say I really worked on that one, but that's how for me when people
Superpower,
are
as you were
putting
saying
themselves
in
down.
the last podcast, it's like that was just superpower you were born with, and
Right, it's not, I can't take credit for it because it's just how I see
couldn't
people,
even
and
probably teach
sometimes
that skill to someone. You could talk about it and they might get something, but you couldn't. It's not, since you didn't learn it, you probably would have trouble teaching it.
right. Like there are things in this lifetime that I have learned the hard way. Trust me, I've spent a lot of time in this lifetime
Those you
learning
could
things the
teach.
hard way.
Right. Those you could
And
teach.
right. But the idea that at least the idea that it is possible to see people as the best version of themselves, the way I would probably teach it is to say, what's whatever someone's greatest aspiration is, it's attainable. Anything, that we want out of love is attainable. Because some people say, well, what if I decided I want to be a figure skater and I'm, 65 years old? And it's like, well, do you want to be a figure skater? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, what is it that you want to be? Well, I really want to be a great grandparent, but I don't know if I could be that. It's like, well, are you a grandparent? They're like, yeah. And you want to be a great grandparent. So you're aspiring
Like a
to
really
be
good
a great,
grandparent, not a great grandparent, but a really good great.
yeah, a really phenomenal grandparent. So, and I'm like, that's really I want to give that to my grandchildren the way that I didn't necessarily give it to my child. And I'm saying, so that's the goal you have. But what if if you're saying it's so possible to do anything, what if I wanted to be a figure skater? It's like, again, do you want to be a figure skater? No, not at all. So it like somehow it just occurred to me when I was young that the things that people want are the things that they're really best suited for.
Very often.
Very often. I mean, I don't have any desire to be a mathematician.
Right.
And from the time you were little,
I
math
was just good at
always,
it. Right. It's like, and I'll say to people, sometimes I'll say to students, and by the way, I want to get back to that last Rogers thing, but like,
oh, yes, do that. Sure.
what I will say, just to finish this up is, sometimes a student who I know is struggling in math, has struggled, like doesn't like it, doesn't want to be there, right? In a horrible math class that they're trying to get through. I don't know, like 5 or 6 weeks into working with them, I will see that there's been such progress that I will say to them, and meaning it, I'll say, I know that you don't like math very much, but it likes you. And they're like, what do you mean?
Yes.
And I'm like, you're good at it. You kind of get it. Like I explain something once
Yeah,
and you retain it. Like
that's it.
it's like I can see on your face that like the first 5 minutes of being here is just hard because you don't want to be here. But then after that, it's not like being boiled in oil. It's more like just being in a bathtub and like, you thought it was boiling oil, but it turned out it wasn't. It was a hot
No,
tub.
and that's the thing is that when we look at people and notice what they're ask them some questions like, one of the questions we'll get back to the pillar. We're not going to forget it, pin in
Mhm.
it. Um, a lot of times, like, what do you think is amazing about you? I ask that like, to a client, like, tell me 10 amazing things about yourself. When we start to talk about what we love and what we like and what we enjoy and what's kind of fun and this and that, we're giving our we're in we're injecting sunlight into those futures, those possible futures. It's like, and when you shine a light down a path, the path appears. So why talk about these things? Like, what, why do I shut down the conversation of, well, do you want to be a figure skater? It's like because there's no joy down that journey for you. But the inner critic will say, well, if all things aren't possible, then why would anything be possible? And there are questions that should just not be taken seriously. That
Absolutely. I
question
totally
is not on the table in this coaching. What's on the table in this coaching is, what do you want and how do we get you there? And as you do them, some things might fall away and not be as interesting, and some things might brighten up and be more interesting. Or someone might, like, you might come along and say, remember, I mean, you were the one who said to me, I mean, I watch Jeopardy. I don't get one answer, but I was, playing through looking at the LSATs,
Somebody else that
and you
question, right?
said, and you're like, I think you'd be good at this. And I'm like, why would I be good at this? I'm not educated in that way. And you're like, no, this is about logic.
It's
And
about
so
thinking,
some
an argument, making an argument, understanding
making an
how the
argument and
pieces
like,
fit together, which, if you grew up in our household and like, if there was any kid that didn't get good at arguing by the age of 6, they didn't survive that childhood.
no, they didn't. And so for me, the we have our inner critic loves to play with misunderstandings. Math and logic are not the same things. Math and art, like creating an argument, like, or a defense around something. And so for me, like, I started playing with the LSATs at that point, and I was like, I go through a set of questions, get them all right, go through another set of questions, get them all right. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't, how I'm not good in math. And you're like, two different animals. So just discerning for people, like, this person may have not have liked arithmetic that you were coaching, but they got into higher math and they're like, well, this isn't anything like that. This is,
Sort of
and
seeing,
they are good at it.
sort of seeing the patterns. I think that was it. It's like it's a natural affinity that humans have for seeing patterns, sometimes to our detriment, sometimes
True,
seeing
true,
patterns where none exist, where, like,
true,
to the
very true.
extreme of paranoid or the schizophrenic or just to the extreme of the very suspicious person or story, we tell
Right.
stories, right? But
Let's
well,
get back to your pillar
I
though.
wanted to. Okay, so Carl Rogers was saying that to create a therapeutic connection that would be a healing moment, a healing time with a person, he needed for himself to have unconditional positive regard for that person in that moment. So that was one. The other was empathy. In other words, to be able to not just hear the words, but feel the music, right? That's the
Love that.
difference.
Love that analogy.
Where the mirroring that gets parodied of like where someone repeats back the words, like a computer. It's like that's the words, that's not the music. The music is the emotion. The music is that's the human. Okay. Those two things, which sound very Rogerian. And then the third one is something he called congruence. And
Oh,
and I love
yes.
congruence because congruence is a very specific thing and it's a surprising thing. Congruence is, he said there were three pieces to congruence. So
Okay.
congruence is the thing that I'm experiencing and feeling, the thing that I'm saying about it to myself,
Yes.
the way that I'm self-describing it, and
Sure.
the experience that another person is having of me are all in line. And he says like you could have two of those, but if one, like for example, when someone is, let's go through all three of them. When someone is hiding, so like they're like, I'm bored, I'm angry, that's how I feel, and I know it, but I'm pretending to be, I'm fine, right? No
Yeah,
congruence. And other people pick up on that. They're like, this person's not really with me, right? But then either of the
true.
others, like for example, you can be angry and you can be have the other person experiencing you as angry. And tell me if this has ever happened, like where you're like I'm with a person who's angry, obviously angry. I'm experiencing them as angry, and I say, like, you seem really angry. I'm not angry,
Oh yeah,
right? So
I've been in that situation before.
we've all been there. Like, he's like, I'm not angry. Don't put words in my mouth. And it's like, okay, you seem real angry, and I'm not in you, but if I had to guess, you're real angry, but you're not currently cop. And then there's the people who are um experienced outside. And I think this is the hardest. I think this is the most difficult. The other two are normal, but this one's really hard. It's like everybody's experiencing them in a certain way. And they're saying that they're that way, but deep down they're not, right? So it's sort of like, like, oh, she's the most wonderful person in the world. She always has time and she always volunteers for so many things. And so everybody experiences her as lovely, wonderful, helpful. And then she's also, I just have time. I just make time for all my friends and for all the things. And meanwhile, she's a seething ball of misery or resentment, right?
Yeah,
Inside,
true
right?
that.
So any of
Yes.
those three things can be a lack of the three things have this three things that have to line up for congruence.
Well, I love this because this is so true. I wish I could say I was more like the first thing you talked about, which was, you know, always giving time and always having time. But it's more of this the idea that my behavior is saying yes and and I don't but I don't express myself anymore as a person who's like I will say yes, I will mean no, and I will my behavior like the pattern was and I will back out at the last minute. So now to get congruence, I'm a person who sometimes still says yes when I don't mean it, says um feels no, and then has a clarifying conversation and clears it up. So there because to get congruence, so bringing down the saying yes with let me get back to you, you know, trying to actually tap into because sometimes when you're saying yes and meaning no, you don't really know if you're feeling yes or no. You're so used to not you don't even you just ignore that part of it. And
That's,
then the backing out is just a self-preservation behavior.
that's right.
So incongruous can happen not
Oh,
so
and all
that's
sorts of
why I love the
configurations. Yeah.
right, but that's why some of the pillars that I talk about are when I'm thinking about saying no to something that I really want to say no to
Yeah.
is to fall back on a few pillars. Tammy is the number one. I can't lose anything that's mine. I can't have anything that's not. So if I if I'm saying if I attempt to say no to this or say no to this, I can't lose the real things in life.
Yeah.
So saying no can be easier. And it also opens up the possibility for a maybe. Like, should we go to dinner tomorrow night? Maybe. That's a safer place to start with congruence when you don't know what you and then the idea that like there's a place in the world for not having an answer when you think you should have an answer. I don't know land.
Absolutely. And to
And then
express that is like if I'm in, I don't know, land. I mean, if someone asks me to dinner and I'm like, like, I don't know how I'm going to be feeling tomorrow about that. I don't know if I'll feel like I have the time, if I feel like I want, like, well, how I'm feeling about that right now is I'm a maybe. So if
there
I,
you go.
if I can, it turns out I'm a maybe. I'm now aware that I'm a maybe, and I'm saying that I'm a maybe, and I'm saying it out loud
Right.
that they get my maybe, right?
That's
Congruent.
like that's congruence, right? Like the idea that's the thing is that and also when I bring in a couple things like it's a short walk to anywhere you think can't be. For me, the idea was always there's something wrong with changing directions. Changing directions is, I think, one of the greatest skills we can acquire, learn, like work on to find congruence in our life and self-regulation. Learning how to change directions on a dime. Like being able to say to somebody, I've done this many times and I teach this. If somebody says, you want to go out to dinner tomorrow night, and you're on the phone, you're like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll talk to you later. Bye. Click. And cha- being able to get off the phone and say, call them back and say, I know I just said yes to that, but I'm not really sure if yes is the actual answer. Can you give me a few minutes to think about it? And you do sound in the beginning a little loopy if you say that, like you just said yes and now you're saying no. But if you teach people, like, I don't know, land is a real place to be. Sometimes you don't know. I need a minute, because the thing where incongruence, I believe, starts is that in the first part of, you can start in any part of that equation, is that we don't check in with ourselves.
That's absolutely true.
Checking, like, so incongruence happens when we have a reaction to something instead of an action towards something.
Yes,
Reacting is somebody asked me to go to dinner. I'm not checking in with myself. I reacted by saying yes. An action is somebody asked me to go to dinner. I thought about it. And the action was, yes, I want to go to dinner. Do you see the difference?
I do.
But
Yeah.
there's the idea for many people, I don't know if it's more for men, more for women, or more for everybody, is that we can be afraid to appear stupid, is the word that hits me. I feel stupid. That I don't, because I was
Funny
told
because
I would,
I
that
was
was
going to say
the,
weak, and I was thinking the difference between men and women. And I mean, not, okay, now we're going to get down to the difference between men and women, and in the next 30 seconds, I will tell you. And which is right.
yeah.
That's a rather big ask. No, but in this context, I was thinking what came to me was I think that men will often. I'm not allowed to be weak. I have to be strong and I have to be the provider, especially if they're married with kids, right? Like dad was like that,
True. Very true.
I will be the bridge that I lay my body down, you all walk over me, and then I pull myself up and we go on, like whatever that is. I think
Always.
women on the other side is sort of like, I'm really not allowed to ask that. I'm really not allowed. I'm supposed to just go along. I'm supposed to just smile and nod and I think that both of those are ways that, and there's a huge number of variations and all that, but that ways that both men and women can be. I'm not going to consult in here because that doesn't really come into it. I'm not allowed to ask for that. I'm not allowed to say no to that. I'm not allowed to
It
say
wasn't
that.
available. Like, let's put it this way. Would you have said, in our family growing up, now we grew up um with parents of the 50s, so they grew up in that was their time of coming of age, in the 50s. And this conversation had not yet started, the conversation of check in with yourself. So we didn't get the reason I'm really clarifying that I'm not saying that anybody else out there is stupid. I'm saying that was a word that was used in our house towards me.
Hmm.
That wasn't a word that was generally used towards you. That was more smart aleck
Oh,
for
yeah.
you. That word, like you, so we get
Yeah,
a
the
word
Italian
that
word
gets stuck on our,
Skunitz, right?
yeah,
I got
yes. Whereas for like the word for in our family that regarded me was like, oh, she's not so intelligent. She's so kind, and mom used the word, the word was stupid. Like, that's so stupid that you said that. Or that was a stupid way to think, or, so the I'm not saying everybody has a unique word. Like I said, like yours could have been, he's got a mouth on him. He's a smart aleck. It was what I would hear about you,
Oh, yeah.
and
I,
and
which
it
I
was,
eminently deserved. Eminently, right?
well, the thing about like the thing is deserved is or not deserved,
Well,
whatever. It
I
just,
was a kid and it
it wasn't
wasn't.
we didn't have a family talking about checking in with your inner self, because our inner self didn't exist in our family.
You
It
know,
existed
I don't think they existed
in our orbit.
in that world, in that it didn't exist in that
Right.
sort
So
of
this is not
suburban orbit.
blaming
Yeah.
mom and dad. This is not a blaming of mom and dad, but the
No.
thing now is why I like the idea of being able to change, like to teach people to change directions on a dime, like to just be able to say, I know I just said that, but I don't know if I mean that. To call yourself out and kind of bring some humor into it. Like, I know this might sound funny, but I just said yes to that, but I really need a few minutes. Can you give me a few minutes? I erased the word stupid and said thoughtful to myself. Like, oh, I feel so stupid if I called him and said this after I just said that. Now I'm saying I'm appearing thoughtful. We're bringing words into the conversation. So know what if you once I stopped thinking of myself in that way and thought of myself as I'm a more in touch, working on self-regulation kind of person. So I think that the word thoughtful doesn't hurt me the way the word stupid does. It says like I don't feel I might have gone from stupid to I feel a little silly. And then I brought it up a notch and I said, bring it into this century, Tammy. You're having your self-reflection, you're thinking, you're being it's much more considerate to say no today than have them wait all day tomorrow and say no to them, which is was going to happen.
Right.
And many times someone would say to me, I don't mind if we wait. You've done this many times to me. Why don't we wait and see how we feel tomorrow and we revisit the question? That's has been life changing for me. You
Well,
mean like someone can grant you that kind of grace, and then the next day comes and you're like, yeah, of course I feel like going out tonight. That's
yes.
great.
Yes.
And you've taught me that
Well, I'm glad.
by
That's a good one.
but you've made the word maybe not a dirty word, which it was in our house. Like
Yeah, and why would it be? Right. You know, like what like I mean, you know, like if it comes to like, how do I feel about feeding the baby today? Maybe. That's not, like nobody's
but
really
we're no nobody's
commenting that one.
that's
No
the
one's
kinds
going
of
on.
questions that's an inner critic kind of speak
Yeah, like say, well,
because
what
nobody's
happens if suddenly everybody decided not to feed their children for the week? Like it's like no, but nobody
that's
you're talking about like
nobody's doing
you'd
that.
like to go out for pizza tomorrow night with a friend, and your friend's like, I don't know, maybe if I'm when I get home from work, if I don't feel tired.
Let's check in again.
Rob and I do it. My friend Rob and I do that all the time, where it's like, like, yeah, Wednesday sounds good. Like, but it's not like set in stone. Like it's like, why don't we check in? It's, Wednesday afternoon, like see how our days are going. And it's 9 out of 10 times it happens. And if he's having a satanically awful day at work, he's gonna be like, oh man, I just want to go home and spend time with my wife and drink a beer and watch a game. And I'm like, good on you. Let's do it Saturday. It's like there is no harm, no foul.
Right, but the what I'm saying is that words and new paradigms, the idea for me is changing directions is not something that is silly oh like she can't make up her mind. Changing the whole paradigm that before we do anything in life, almost anything, a quick check-in, a quick check-in with our inner guidance. And when your inner critic says, well, what if we don't feed the baby? It's like, do you see how that's the silliness?
Yeah.
Like, no, we're talking about pizza, honey. We're talking about pizza.
It's funny. I don't know why I'm flashing on this, but it's like I want to make a plug for a movie that you've heard of and maybe never seen and maybe thought like I'm never going to watch that movie. And now I was like, you have to watch this movie. Have you ever seen the movie Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice?
I never have, and I've always wanted to.
Right. It's so I'm not going to, I don't think there's any spoilers here, but it's like, what is this movie about? Okay. Like, it's in the first 10 minutes of the movie. Bob and Carol are a couple, and they go to Esalen. So it's like, it's got to be Esalen. It's like they're
What's
very,
that?
Esalen is the
What?
Esalen Institute in Southern California was a big sort of spiritual hub, but it was really pricey. It was in the LA area. It was, like Southern California,
Okay.
really pricey. So like, it wasn't like, poor people were going there, but, people with some money who wanted
I
to.
was thinking of Est, like
Oh, no, no, it
Est.
wasn't Est. It was Esalen, the Esalen Institute. So, they're at a
Okay.
place like that. They're at a, like a couples retreat or whatever, group thing. And there is a 24-hour encounter session. Well, here we go, circle back because Carl Rogers, I think, basically invented the encounter group, right? Okay.
Yeah, and you're a fan of that.
Which
Me, not as much.
not so much, but like
I'm
so
not.
and as a result of this 24-hour encounter group, which they give like, they don't go, they do little excerpts from it. They come home, they drive home to their very palatial house in Southern California, and they're both like they're essentially a happy couple. Okay. They're happy with each other. They're like, they like their lives, but all of a sudden now they're very awake. They're very much like, you know, people were so real and it was like just being alive. And, and they're trying to capture it and preserve it. And it's both, but it's sweet. It's like, and so then of course their friends Ted and Alice come in, and they're another couple who haven't gone through this process, but like through osmosis, they're kind of getting it, like, because the two of them are sort of like, they're like, insight. I totally see why you act that way because when I do this, I sound like your mother, and then you react the way your father would have. And it's like, yeah, that's a really good insight, honey. I see that, but like, but what about this? Like they're living it. And so it's comic to watch. So like they'll go to a restaurant and they're having these conversations, and the waiter is just sort of like, "Would you like to order?" Right? But I just think it's a terrific movie because it takes this place that they're at and it just brings them on this journey with these other two friends of theirs who are, now questioning their own marriage and having.
And what I like about this is like this is why there's so much comedy in mental health. Like, there's so many like great shows about it,
Stuart
is
Smalley, like
because
yeah.
oh, I love Stuart Smalley
Yeah.
Saves His Family. I love
It's
that
a
movie. Do you
great
ever see
movie. Right.
great movie? And the reason that it has such comedy in it is because when we start to become self-aware, we have to act almost 180 degrees different than what we were acting 20 minutes ago. Like
Right.
sitting on a phone, crying my eyes out, and then saying, having a self-aware moment because I'm a life coach and I spend my life thinking and working on this. And this is on the table this year for me. It's something I teach, it's something I'm working on, and like it's like to say to someone you're crying on the phone with like, I'm gonna change directions right now. And a part of what coaching is permission to become to be better in any moment can seem very very funny to the people that are watching. It would make a great movie. the
That's
you know
right.
the like it makes for great comedy, and there's a lot of reality in great comedy because you do have to change. Like I'm picturing this movie, but to like how much I love the movie Groundhog Day.
Sure, sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, that movie, over and over again, like days and days of Andy McDowell, right? And
McDowell, yeah. Bill Murray, yes.
Bill Murray.
Him trying to
The thing
scam
is,
her, him trying to see how am I gonna get this one? How am I gonna leverage her? How am I gonna like get in and get, and it never happens for him.
but the thing is, like, change does have that irony in it. You have to kind of clumsily stumble along through it until you solidify the new person that you are, and that takes all of the stages that sort of go happen during that movie. It's sort of a you know being who you are in the beginning, and I don't nothing bothers, like, this is who I am, I'm going to accept it or not, and then starting to see the possibilities. And during those phases, if your close people in your life are watching you, you can seem a little nutty nutsky. I mean, I have to the people in my life,
I'm thinking
but
about
it's worth it.
another movie I'm thinking about, and there are, it's always played with comic elements, but like the end of the movie Scrooge or any of the Christmas carols, there's
Oh,
this old man. He's always like we're like what is this? What is this thing that you have to wear if you're a 60-year-old man? And I guess it's like because you got to stay warm in that freezing house of his, but he's got the
Yeah.
white nightshirt that goes all the way down to his feet. He's got stockings on. He's got this white cap. He's running around like a fool, asking what day it is. And it's like it's ridiculous. And it's more ridiculous if you know the man. If you're like
But
that
also, oh my
yesterday.
gosh, that reminds me of the most modern day, the best show ever done that has the same evolution, Schitt's Creek.
Oh, absolutely. Schitt's Creek is terrific, right? Because these people,
I mean, it's,
right? These like people
yes, and
are
then and
like
also the
they are
nightshirt
of
when
their
that
time.
when
They are so at the beginning. That's like all four of them, the four main characters, the father, the mother, like the son,
best show ever done.
all four of their type. They're like cookie cuttered out of the mold where he's got the provider who's like makes the money and she's the, crazy wife who spends the money and, the son who's like has to have like, everything perfect. And then the daughter has to have everything perfect in a different way. And
It's
you
just
watch
wonderful, but
them evolve, right?
evolve and it happens quickly. It happens fast and slow. Quick
Which is
jumps
like
and then
life, which is
slow.
exactly like life. It happens.
Yes,
Once you
yes.
look around and go, I can't believe 20 years has passed. It is like, I can't believe I've done nothing. I can't believe I've done so much, right?
Right. And one of my other favorite shows, I don't know if you ever really watched it, was Ted Lasso.
I
Favorite, favorite, favorite.
only watched the first two seasons. I think there's now three or four. I think there's four seasons, right? So
There's another three finished the first body of it, and then there are gonna launch a
trying to see the
fourth.
rest. So like that's one on my that's one
But
on
Schitt's
my
Creek was the one that was when I've watched it probably 7 times through and never ever gotten sick of watching that subtle change in the hearts of every single person on that show. Like
absolutely
every single thing mattered,
right.
and yet nothing mattered.
Right. It's like
It
it's weird. I never thought of this before, but it's like Green Acres with an arc. Like the day, if you think about the show Green Acres was on for 6 years. I think Schitt's Creek was on for 6 years, right? Or something like that. Like it's like four, I don't know what
yeah.
years, but like both on for a long time. Like Green Acres, the day he walked in and the day he walked out, it was exactly like nothing changed. I mean, he was exactly the same. He never, nothing changes on Green Acres, but then because it was, the 60s, that wasn't what happened on TV programs. It was a half an hour and it was like the same people over and over. But then with Schitt's Creek, there's this arc where everyone changes the evolution of the town, right?
The evolution of the town. And I when I saw the last episode, I thought to myself, they must have over the course of I think it was 6 seasons, um, because it looked so much prettier to me that like I kind of looked back when I watched it for the second time. They didn't change the decor. It was the same decor in the motel room. I thought that they might have evolved it over the seasons, but I watched the last episode and then I went back and I watched the first episode, and it was only my mind that made it more beautiful.
Really, that's amazing.
Yes, they do have 1 or 2 episodes where Moira gets onto the council and she has some potted plants put around the town. But other than that, I thought to myself, in the last episode where you're sobbing and crying for this heartwarming thing, and I thought, well, they must have repainted the room because it looks so much better. The two motel rooms, and they must have the lobby of the motel must be painted a different color because like the where Stevie hangs out, and the Cafe Tropical must have done. And I looked at the first episode, and they didn't.
Nothing. No,
Your mind makes it more beautiful.
that's very interesting.
It was unbelievable. I love that show. I'm such an advocate of everything about that show. And it taught me that like it's how when you meet somebody and you know most people are beautiful people, and you meet them and then somehow one of them you get really close and you're like, I never noticed how incredibly beautiful you are. And have they really changed over the course of time?
Right.
They've probably gotten older. and
It's
yet they look more beautiful than ever to you.
funny. The thing that I was thinking
It's
was
amazing.
like, so I was flashing back to the place where, I'm by the way, I'm feeling like we're like moving towards completion.
We're
You're feeling,
yes, yes, yes.
but what I flashed on was the place where our grandmother, where we stayed as kids in Asbury Park,
Yes.
tiny little apartment, still there, building's still there, right? The house is still there,
Yeah.
apartment. Um, would it have been improved by a furniture makeover? Like, would it have, right? Like, like if we could see it today, we'd probably look and go like, oh, like inexpensive,
Yeah, it could be.
what could be afforded by people of very modest means from a certain amount of time, nothing uncomfortable, nothing unseemly,
But
perfect
also think about how funny it was with the plastic covers, the Italian
plastic
plastic
covers
covers
I mean, the plastic covers
on
on
all the
the couch.
furniture.
I mean, like there's some stereotypes, right? It was like, but little tiny, like freezer at that time, this big, stuffed with like, like what's in that? Like three meatballs and like two sausages and like a little like jar of sauce and so like some
Oh,
oxtail soup and some this and some that and right, all that stuff. But it wouldn't have been improved at all by a makeover, just and nor
not at all.
never occurred to me in my whole life until you mentioned that it's like, if I went back there, that it's like, the best thing to have done would have been to give these people $3,000 to go buy, an entire new living room set. It's like, not at all. Totally unneeded.
No,
Right.
no, 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 no. And that is the thing is that we see things through a lens. And now what we're trying to do is change our lenses all the time.
That's right.
Change the lens, the softer lenses to which to see ourselves through, softer lens to see other people through, and to realize that this, you know, that our initial reaction to something isn't going to be what it's going to be in the long run. And this voice, this negative voice that's talking and talking can needs to needs to evolve. And in the process of this evolution is where we get some of the funniest stories, some of the best TV shows. I mean, let's say that All in the Family wasn't the same show when it started to when it finished at the end. You
Right.
know, the evolution is happening anyway. So if we can in our own world, and this is kind of how I'm wrapping up, is like why I'm this is about changing directions. And sometimes when you go to like an encounter group for the weekend, you come home with all these new words and new things and they sound silly and funny, but to embrace that. And I've learned a lot about laughter and
Yes.
how that changes the world.
Yes.
Like sometimes, we've got to go over the top being funny about our own changes. Like, okay, here I am, I guess I was crying 5 minutes ago, but here, see, I'm changing. Like,
Exactly
and
right.
everybody kind of can laugh about it, but they're not laughing at me, they're laughing with me. And
Correct.
to get the world laughing with you is where the change
And to be
is.
laughing at yourself.
It's
And
laughing at yourself and people laughing with you,
right.
and to be able to see your own evolution as
Right.
fun and funny.
And
There's
not
no
so
way to
darned
change.
important. And not
Right.
so darned important. Right. You
And
know,
at this, and on the flip side of it, the thing about it is that it to lighten up while becoming heavier and more serious. It's the duality. It's the
but like,
duality
I'm
that
like,
this is.
yeah, right. I
You
like,
see what I'm saying? But how weird is that? That it had like I mean, when we're talking, I'm just talking about Schitt's Creek. Is probably a lot of people have watched it, but the evolution of that show had some poignant moments in it that were literally life changing while being hilariously funny.
right, exactly.
And you have to hold both truths at the same time.
You
If we
absolutely
buy into either one, like
no.
it's just going to be this like angelic journey, you're in for trouble. And if you hold on to, like it's never going to get any better, it's the balance. And
Yes.
like that's where we can probably wrap it up. But like it's the balance and being able to give ourselves permission to evolve, permission to everybody out there to evolve. That's
Yes.
what I'm saying anyway. Like, everybody out there, no matter what your journey looks like, as long as you're moving towards better, we're
Yes.
getting better.
Awesome.
On
Okay.
that note,
On that note,
why don't we wrap it for today?
sounds
And
great. We,
welcome to Beyond, and thank you for being here on Beyond, Mark, and everyone else that's out there. If you enjoy this podcast, like and subscribe, and we would hope to see you back here. Write anything you want in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And Mark, I will see you next week.
I'll see you next week, Danny.
Bye bye now.